Okay, good afternoon officially, everybody. Welcome to EXCO Meeting. Let's see how we get through all of this. My initial thought was, but now we're running a little bit late, that we would maybe just try and deal with minutes and matters arising in the first hour, and then deal with all of the other issues on the agenda after that. But now I think that's probably still what I want to do, because I think otherwise we're just going to belabor the points all the time. Some of the items that's in matters arising is on the agenda anyway, and where needs be, I think we'll just hold it over until we get to that item on the agenda, if that is okay with everybody. Okay. We'll deal with attendance once everybody's here. No apologies as yet. Any personalia?
Nothing from my side.
Silence means nothing in this case. Okay. Confirmation of the agenda. I know that Rebecca had asked anybody if they wanted to add anything, and as far as I can see from Rebecca's response to me, there was no additional items. Okay, so if we can go to the minutes of our last meeting. Okay, thanks, Anna Marie. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, you guys?
Hi, Charlie.
Are you still driving?
Yeah, did
Okay.
you about 2 minutes? I was picking up my child at school.
Okay, no, that's no problem. Drive safely.
Will do.
Okay, any corrections to page 1? Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. finally page 12. Okay, if there are no further corrections, can I have somebody move to the dot minutes?
We can adopt it.
Seconder.
I can second.
Thanks, Anna Marie. Okay, can we then move to matters arising? It's a really lengthy set of matters arising. Just want to reiterate for Charlie, because it's such a lengthy list of matters arising, it is on the agenda as an item point. Then I think we'll just leave it and then go on to the next matter. Okay. If I can start, Anne-Marie, that the document regarding EXCO and REPCO roles and responsibilities, have you maybe made any amendments to that document as we discussed it?
No, not yet. So that still need to be fixed.
Can we maybe just put a timeline to that when you think you might be able to get to it?
Azim, sorry, Annemarie.
Rebecca?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You kind of break or fade away sometimes. I'm not
Oh,
sure
okay.
if it's just
Does
from my
that sound
side.
better?
Oh, yes, thank you.
I've got too many things in front of me, that's why. Okay.
All right,
Sorry, Anne-Marie.
Okay, so you asked for a timeline. Yeah, it
we
shouldn't
look
take
at-
too long,
Mm.
but yeah, you want to suggest?
I was going to say, can we, for the very latest, look at the end of December?
Oh, that's very generous. I thought end of November.
I was initially going to say end of November, but to me, it's things that are, we in the roles, we kind of know what we've discussed. It's just a matter of amending the actual document.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if it can be done before that, I mean, that would be great, but I think there are many other things that are actually more important that I think that we need to deal with, that I think we can put that as the, well, actually it's the 22nd of December. I don't expect you to work till off. I don't expect you to work after that. So let's say
Very kind
22
of you.
December. Okay.
Okay.
Well, 21, because you're off on the 22nd. Okay. All
Sorry,
right, team
Nazim,
chart. Yes, Rebecca.
before you go to team chat, the timeline for the 22nd of December, is it for administration or is it for, I've missed the,
No, it's just to amend that document. Remember that EXCO and REPCO roles and responsibilities.
Oh,
We noted the things that need to change in there. So Anne-Marie just needs to make the changes, and I'm saying it must be done by 21 December.
22nd.
No,
Is it-
22nd, she's off already.
Oh, 21. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. All right, team charter is on the agenda. So if we can then skip that and we'll deal with it when it comes to the agenda. The same with restructuring. We are going to have a bit of a discussion about it on the agenda. If any of you have things that you want to bring up as I'm skipping, then please don't hesitate to jump in. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was, just need to check if it's in the current agenda. Okay, now so Sanchez is in current agenda, and I'll deal with that then. Okay, Linda's not here, so I can't ask her about the social media survey nor the policy, so we'll have to come back when Linda's in the meeting. Actually, I think most of the things that I actually want to raise is on our agenda. So I don't know if there's anything else that anyone wants to deal with. So we're going to talk about, in the agenda, we're going to talk about the budget, where we are. We're going to talk about, we are going to talk about Sageless. When Linda joins us, we'll talk about the survey for social media as well as the policy. One of the things that I just want to note is that while we decided on certain things around social media, for example, the Facebook pages, I haven't communicated that to the branches as yet. It's the same with their budgets, or sorry, not their budgets, their bank accounts. I had a conversation with Anna-Marie in the week, and while I know which branches and interest groups we need to do it for, I've decided to hold it over because there is some additional work that we need to do. And because we'd set an initial deadline of 15 November in our previous discussion, I thought it was too close to the time, and because of that reason, I want to push it out to end of December. And once we have finalized everything that needs to be done, then I will communicate it to them. So the deadline for them then to change and move their bank accounts to the central account will now be the end of December, as opposed to what we decided previously. In terms of the academy, it isn't on the agenda as it is as we speak, but I think it comes up in our restructuring conversation some way, and I will then deal with the matter there. It's the same with recognition of prior learning, which we did speak about in the last set of minutes. It's the same. We will deal with the whole issue around professional body. And oh, no, I lie. It's not in the agenda. Anna-Marie, can I just ask you, one of the things we discussed the last time was that you were going to send us, or at least update that marketing plan around professional librarian status, with the first cohort having expired and having to renew. But you haven't seen that to us yet, eh?
I thought I did, but I will
Did you?
just check. If I haven't done it, then I will send it after the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Because that's something that needs to get rolling, well, it should have rolled already. And we need to get it out of the way. Student chapter is in the agenda item, so we will deal with it then. In terms of EXCO and REPCO training, I was supposed to have set up a meeting with the president-elect, but I haven't done so yet, so that needs to stand over till the next time. In terms of other bodies, I will deal with issues around NEDIC and other bodies that we discussed the last time when I discussed the issues around meetings. In terms of awards and fundraising, that I think is an ongoing conversation. The next thing I do want us to, one of the things that I do want us to talk about in terms of matters arising is the calendar of meetings that we've decided on. But I would prefer to wait until Charlie's at his destination for us to maybe have a better conversation around it. Because I don't want him to drive to have to think about these things. The strategic planning event leadership weekend, again, that goes hand in hand with my having to have had a meeting with the president-elect around it, but I haven't done so yet. In terms of Library Week 2022, we'll get an update when we come to that agenda point. Same with Skexel, and we will talk about Conference 2022. Are there any other matters out of the previous minutes that is not on the agenda that anybody wants to raise as a matter arising? As an arising matter?
Nothing from me.
The issue of the meeting with SAQA is going to be discussed with the professional body.
Yeah, I'll discuss it there.
Okay.
Anything else from anybody? If nothing else, okay, can we then go to the matters for today? Charlie, how far are you still out from your destination?
Just about 5 minutes.
Sorry, say that again.
Just about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. Okay, I maybe want to deal with something that doesn't require a lot of discussion, as I would prefer that you rather be at your destination when we really talk about detailed issues. So I'm going to then jump around just a little bit, Rebecca, if you don't mind. Anna-Marie, L&O report, anything from your side?
Sure, thanks, Nazim. Okay, so we received our laptops and I have started working on my new laptop. However, Kagiso and Lebo have not fully started working on their new laptops because their email addresses are changing over. And now today we have discovered that there is a bit of a problem with that. So Mpo that set up the laptops for us will come and assist us tomorrow. That once we fully part with the old laptops, that it's smooth sailing going forward. So none of us know enough about IT to actually know what is the problem, but I trust that Paul from Octopus will be able to assist us, that we can be fully functional in everything. Then also just to report that we are back at the office when needed, especially Mondays and Thursdays, and any other day in between if we need to be at the office. So for now, every Monday and Thursday, we are back at the actual office. And I think that is about it from my side.
Sorry, through
yes,
you,
Rebecca.
Nazim. Anna-Marie, is it Mondays and Wednesdays
Thursdays.
or Thursdays that you are expected in the office?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item I then want to deal with is just the issue of an annual report. So I've had a little bit of a discussion with Anna-Marie about it and maybe just want to get everybody else's feeling about it. One of the things I think as an association we haven't done for the last couple of years is produce an annual report. It's a little bit problematic in a year like this year, where you have a change of leadership, because strictly speaking, the annual report should have been done up to a certain point in the previous term, and maybe just have ended off in this particular term, or however we want to structure it going forward. And I think, Charlie, it's something for you to note. In that chartered document, I did note it there with a question mark, because I think we just need to pave a way forward as to how an annual report will be structured in terms of actual reporting. So for the purposes of where we find ourselves now, I was saying to Anne-Marie that I feel that we do need to have one so that we set the ball rolling. It won't be necessarily my view on things, but it will maybe just be an annual report that reports on things. For example, finances, the change in leadership, membership, and whatever else. And we can pick up all of those things, I think, from documentation. I can also pick up some of those things from the president's column that gets handed to Nora, and maybe from those snippets put together something which I would probably then have Nikki have a look at, as well as maybe comment on and give input, but that we do make some effort to actually put something out there so that it becomes something that people expect from us. As it is, I feel it's something that we should have always done. But the last time we've actually had a proper annual report was in 2012. There have been some variations of what an annual report is, but I think it's part of governance that we actually do these things as well. So those are my thoughts around it. I just want to know how everybody else feels about it.
Sorry, Rebecca.
Dani?
I think it's a good idea, especially with the fact that we want to be visible. Just to give a quote, say for instance, a quarterly report on things.
Okay, thanks, Dani. Rebecca?
I was also going to say, I think it's a good thing that we pick up on things that are very important to us as part of governance, and not only for visibility, but also it helps to update our members of where the association is leading and where it is. Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. Charlie, any thoughts from your side? Okay, maybe Charlie's barking or something. Anne-Marie, your thoughts? Well, I know I've had a discussion with you.
Yes, I think it's more than just a good idea. I think it's actually critical that we do this. Not only are we accountable to our members, but also our other stakeholders. And I think that is a better marketing tool for LIASA, showcasing what we did throughout the year than, I don't know, allowing them to be at the AGM or whatever ideas came up in the past. So I think it is critical that we do, going forward, an annual report every single year.
Okay. Can we just talk about the process for putting this one together? Because we don't have a lot of time to do it. I think going forward, it is something that we can still talk about. Next year, I don't think it's an issue because I think once we start, then it's already there. There's an expectation and we will do it next year. In the interim, the president-elect and I will talk about how we will deal with the year when we do the handover, and then set a trend for how it goes moving forward. But for this particular one, because it's unusual and it hasn't been discussed, I know that Nikki discussed it, but we didn't quite get around to actually doing it. I want to, and you've got to indicate to me, Anna-Marie, how this would work from your side, Rebecca, also from your side, having been on the previous EXCO. So I am looking at by the time the office closes, Anna-Marie, that we have the final version ready to go out, because we will only circulate this electronically, put it up on the website, etc. That's the intention. It's what most companies do nowadays, in any case. So that doesn't give us much time. It literally gives us less than a month to do all of these things. I intended to speak to Nora about it because I wanted to get some of the things from her from a BRC touch point of view, because I think she'd have a finger on the pulse in terms of all of those things. But just if we can just put together how we would actually work on this. So if I look at a calendar, and in between everything else that we've got to do, can we possibly look at having a draft of this by the 10th of December? That means we gather everything together, decide on the format, and then have the first draft by the 10th. Do you think that is doable?
I think so. That is 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we can have a first draft ready. And then when we see there are still gaps, we can just fill in the information. So I think,
Okay.
Nazim, if you can also ask Nikki to forward us her AGM presentations.
Okay.
So that would also help, as it would contain the president's report.
Yeah. Okay. Do that, because that gives us the week of, and it's a public holiday in there somewhere, that week of the 13th to finalize whatever the gaps are.
Yeah.
And then by the time the LNO closes, that we then would be able to issue it. So on the 21st is what I'm looking at, Anna-Marie, that you would then send it out on Lias Online.
Okay.
Or at least the notification for members to actually go and, well, it's not just a members thing, but the notification to say that this is where it is, they can access it there, etc.
Okay, makes sense.
Okay. Okay. That's annual report. Okay, just in terms of meetings. Skexel, we were supposed to have had a meeting this week, a Skexel council meeting. The meeting was postponed. I think it's the best I can say about it. We didn't receive a notice to say that it had been postponed, but because I didn't have a confirmation of the actual meeting, I asked Rebecca to follow up. and oh, hi Charlie. Sorry, just give me a moment quickly. Sorry, just had to sort out the kids quickly. Okay, so Rebecca made inquiries for me about the EXCO meeting, and that's how we discovered that the meeting was actually postponed because not all the associations had indicated the availability. Right at this point, I can't tell you exactly when the EXCO council meeting is going to be taking place. Rebecca has been asked by the Secretariat to set up a meeting with me, specifically around the issues of the EXCO conference, as well as the EXCO Secretariat. I haven't received a notice of that meeting as yet, and I'll probably today after our meeting somewhere just prompt Justin again, so that we can have that discussion. And following that, I'll send everybody an email and or a WhatsApp to say what transpired in that conversation. In terms of Chelsea, some time ago, Shalene, who's the current chair, had asked for a meeting, and I hadn't heard subsequently from her again about the meeting. I did a follow-up in the week, and they've now come back to me they gave 2 possible dates, but the one doesn't work for me. So I have indicated to Shalene that the 3rd would be a better option. At this point in time, I'm not necessarily sure because she's not very clear in her email whether she wants the meeting with me or the whole of EXCO. But possibly if it needs to be EXCO members involved as well, let me know what your availability is for the 3rd so that I can also know. I don't have a time for the meeting yet. Shalene has indicated that she's waiting for the rest of the Chelsea people to indicate their time availability as well. So just keep an eye out for that. And I think it would be good possibly for all of us to meet, but again, I'll be guided by Shalene. In terms of NEDIC, we did talk about it at the last meeting. What's happened subsequently is I had a conversation with Fatima Daris, who's the chair of EXCO, who has been involved in NEDIC before. We had a bit of a conversation as to what is the status at the moment, because the last chair, Johan van Wyk, had retired, and we weren't quite sure what was happening. Following that discussion I had with Fatima, Johan has actually contacted me in terms of regrouping on this. We're still trying to figure out when exactly to meet, but once I have that and I've had a discussion with him, I will come back to all of you about this. EXCO's meeting took place yesterday, and at the last, well, it's not actually at the last minute, but surprisingly to me, I was asked to do a presentation to, as you all saw in the email I sent to all of you, about programming or library programs. I do want to say, I mean, that it was actually quite good to get information and feedback from REPCO members. It did help to a large degree in setting up the presentation. There at least is, I think, some good things that came from that. There was someone from the Department of Basic Education yesterday saying that, you know, there's a need to have greater collaboration. So certainly, you know, that already happens from an NCLIS point of view. But she'd also indicated that she would like to see some greater collaboration with LIASA from a Department of Basic Education point of view, and I think that's really good. Out of that meeting as well, I have had an email from Nali Bali. So Richard sits on the NCLIS on the council, but the person that he reports to, that person has actually sent me an email as well, asking for us to have some form of meeting to look at possible ways of collaborating, etc. And I think that's really good. So I think those are all the meetings that I needed to talk about. I don't know if there's anything that anybody wants to raise. At this point, Anna-Marie, I know I said to Charlie, I'll raise it in one of the other things, but just from a meetings point of view, the last time we were talking about the meeting with Salga, a meeting with Sakwa. Has there been any movement on that? Where are we right now?
That's a no to both. I have not been in contact with Salga at all. I had preliminary discussions with Sakwa, so they were also busy with annual reports, and I think they was in one of the parliamentary committees, so they were rather busy. So I will write to them again probably next week and just find the date. So if there's any dates that would be most suitable for you, just let me know. And then I can tell them either this day or this day, whichever date will be easiest for them.
Sorry, I was muted. Because remember also that we also said that Charlie would be in that meeting. So I think it's both of our availability.
Mm-hmm.
I'll maybe, Charlie, I'll maybe send an email to Anna-Marie about my availability, and then you can just respond to that to look at where we overlap and we are both available. And then that's what Anna-Marie can then keep them as the possible dates for us to meet, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm actually taking leave as from the 6th, so I'll be available.
You want leave?
Yeah.
Leave, what's that?
So, meaning that I'll be changing jobs. I'll be doing my home stuff now.
Nah.
So yeah, I'll be available until
Lucky person you.
17th January.
Okay. Oh, I'm so envious. I didn't even have that much leave, I think.
Yeah, I need it.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Anna-Marie, I'll send it to you, and then we can just communicate with them again. Because I really think that's, yes, we maybe want the Salga meeting, but I think the Sakwa meeting is the one we really after, and we really need to have that sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. I would like for the meeting to take place this year still,
yeah,
especially
no,
since Charlie is available.
Yeah.
So that would be great if we can do that this year.
Okay. All right. If we can jump back to 7.1.
Before you jump,
yes, sorry, Rebecca.
You indicated Salga as well, and I'm not sure what should be the way forward with regard to that. Because the last time but I checked with them. They were just not responding to emails. So I'm not sure if one could still pursue on that for the last time and see if there will be any response.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think right now is the right time. I mean, they've just with these municipalities being set up, and
Yeah.
I think it would be ambitious of us if we try anything between now and early January, maybe around Feb.
Yeah.
That will be the better time to.
Okay,
when all this-
so put on hold until February.
That would be my
I think
suggestion.
that's no, I think that's a very good suggestion, Charlie. I think with upheaval, and I mean, we all see what it's like, and I mean, I just see more upheaval coming in the next 5 years because none of that stuff is stable. I think let them settle down following all of this, and I agree with Charlie. Let's pursue it again, Anna Marie, from about Feb onwards.
Okay.
So I think, Rebecca, if I forget to do it in the agenda, can those two meetings, the SALGA and the SACWA meeting, become a standing item until we've dealt with it? We don't necessarily always need to speak to it, but we need to put it there so that we're always reminded that it's something that we need to do. So if you can just make a note about that, please. Okay.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you. If we can jump back to 7.1, which is the team charter thing. I hope that everybody's had a chance to go through it. As I indicated previously, it is something that I want us to consciously work towards, agree to, etc. Having worked through it, I don't also want it to be something that we sign off on and kind of just put it aside and we don't worry about it. I want it to be kind of a living document, especially when it comes to the milestones that's listed there, because some of those milestones, I've written it in there in terms of how I see it playing out, but things can change. So I think it's something that we maybe need to look at every time we have a face-to-face meeting, possibly, and then look at where we are in terms of those milestones, for example, see if there's anything that we need to adjust, adjust it accordingly, etc., and then do the necessary. But I think before I get into detail about it, I just want everybody's thoughts about it. That footer thingy, Anna Marie, I just see it now. We probably need to change because it looks strange in the first place. Yeah, and I think we can make it today's day. Just your thoughts around it. How do you feel about it? Do you think it's a good thing? I like the fact that it kind of puts it there for us. These are the things that we've got to look at, and I don't think the list is exhaustive either. I've tried to put the main things there that we need to pay attention to. The dates don't always work out quite the way I wanted to, but I've tried to put it there as best as I can. So just your thoughts on it. Is everybody okay with it?
Yeah, I'm trying to open. I'm trying to find one. I'm not sure if Anna Marie can quickly share, but
Okay.
when the last time I looked at it, I thought it's fine because it's a working document. It's a living document. We can always, when we meet, if there are any clearing things that comes up, and so I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments? You're open to say you don't like it either. As I said,
sorry.
Rebecca.
It's
Anna-Marie.
Anna-Marie. I just think it's a roadmap for us. And as you said, it should be a living document. So at any time, if something crops up that we need to add, and not only at the milestones, at any other section in the document, we can always add it as we go along.
Yeah. Okay. If we all agree to this, what I will do is I'll convert it to a PDF just to make it easier from a signature point of view. And then we can just send it along so that everybody signs it and it's one document that we all sign. Otherwise it becomes a bit of a nightmare. If we can put this one to bed, and I do want to thank Anna-Marie for providing me with the original document that I worked from. It really did help a lot to kind of put this together. The other thing I just want to note as well, that while I've said somebody's a champion of something, it obviously doesn't mean that that's the only person who's actually going to work on it. It's just that that's the person who very often will be the driver around certain things. But the expectation is that everybody will contribute to us reaching the milestones that we've actually put there for ourselves. Okay, so if we can move, and I still want to, if you don't mind, I want to jump back to something that was in Matters Arising, but from that team charter document. And that's the Anna-Marie, if you can just project the document again, please.
Sorry, the charter.
Yeah.
Okay, I just closed it, so let me just open it again, just a moment.
So while Anna-Marie is trying to open it again. So I know we've decided on dates for our meetings, but I was working on something else. I was working on things like the team charter and a couple of other things. And then I realized that some of the dates do not make sense if we really plot and plan accordingly. So there are a couple of dates where I think we need to revise what we're wanting to do and possibly change the date. So I don't know how everybody feels. Are you all up to have a meeting on the 30th of December? Or is it that we say we're in holiday mode then?
No, that's exactly my first that I saw, and I said,
we know Charlie's on leave and we know Anna-Marie's on leave.
Yeah. I know we were so ambitious.
And yeah, Dani, you're in Cape Town, aren't you?
Yep.
I wouldn't even be sure where I will be in that, but I won't be around. So yeah, that is.
So can we?
I think if I remember well, that's what Anna-Marie said, is that is gonna just structure it on the calendar. We just need to not accept it because it was if I remember well. Because we did speak about it,
yeah, but I just wanted to raise it because I now put it in the document and suddenly I realized, oh, okay, here are some things that we need to talk about.
Yeah, no, I'll be getting married.
And it was also going to be our next meeting, you see. So it's
Yeah.
important that we should talk about.
I mean, if there are important things that can always be sent in an email with an alert on a WhatsApp, but everybody winds down, and it's been such a different year. I don't think anybody's going to be working on that day in any case. Actually, I'm working that days. I'm not on leave, but yeah, I won't be working on Liasa stuff necessarily. Okay, the next one, which is a bit problematic, is Anna-Maria, I saw you highlighted the 29th.
Yes, it's Skexel.
Yes, so that's the one thing about that particular meeting. So we either need to shift the meeting forward, or we need to shift the meeting a week, or shift the meeting a week later or a week earlier. But Skexel is, just tell me the date. The way we discussed it.
Yeah, so strictly speaking, Skexel is not on anymore on the 29th because it's only 4 days.
Yeah, I think that's what we said, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if the 29th is a Friday, which it is, then it should not be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think let it stand for now. And let's see what comes of my meeting with Justin, and then we can always decide again after that.
Sure.
Okay. The next meeting date, which is a little bit problematic, is the one in July, I think it is. And I just want to...
During our librarians' day.
No. I'm talking about our actual meeting. It's IFLA there somewhere. Because IFLA is in July and not in August. And I picked it up now the other day when I was looking for something. Can anybody remember offhand?
I will quickly check for the IFLA dates, just in a moment.
Also, they've moved the conference to July, no longer August.
Yeah, I saw it I was looking for something else, and then I realized, oh, but the dates are different. Because I think we normally just accept that it is in August. And I'm pretty sure it's at the end of that July period.
Yeah, so I have it as 24 to 28 July.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's something like that.
It says 26 to 29.
Is it 26 to 29?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the thing around IFLA is, and I'm not saying that it is going to be that way. I'm still adamant on the fact that it will depend on a number of things, finances being one of them. If financially speaking, I'm not able to attend IFLA, then I'm not going to push that. It's not why I am here. If we are in a financial position to do it, if I feel that I actually am confident enough to want to travel, because I don't know if you've seen that they've changed IFLA to face-to-face. It's not a hybrid. And that's partly why I picked up on it as well. Then if I do go and I do attend it, then this date becomes problematic. So for now, I don't want us to change it in the calendar, but maybe we can just highlight it, Anna-Marie, in a different color, in that we need to monitor going forward and decide what we're going to do closer to the time.
I've got a different view President,
Sure. Go
I
ahead,
think we should.
Charlie.
I think we should just go ahead and change it because because it might be that it's not only about the president availability.
No,
Other
of course,
members
other people
also
attend
might
too.
not be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
and sometimes people also get to assist colleagues who serve in committees.
No, that's true.
In
Okay.
IFLA, in Spitsbergen. Yeah.
No, I take your point, Charlie.
I support
So-
that.
Okay. So what I want to propose with this particular meeting is that we shift it slightly forward into August, and that we shift the August meeting into September, because from that August meeting, we don't have another meeting until somewhere when we go to conference.
Yes.
So I was thinking that if we could have a meeting kind of in the second week in September, so that August meeting moves to somewhere the second week in September, and then we just move the July meeting by the same margin. So if,
Support.
thank you. So if if we're shifting the July meeting by about 2 weeks, then we're looking at 12 and 13 August, Anna Marie. No, the one above that. Yeah, okay, yeah. No,
August.
you think better than me.
Oh, okay. You want that for the July dates?
Yeah, that's for the July dates, yeah.
Okay, 12 to 13 July.
No, August.
Oh, okay. So that is right there. So that needs to change.
Then August becomes September,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
but
you.
not the dates. We are not sure about the dates in
The
September.
dates.
So
would
change the July
be-
1 to 12 to 12, 13 August. 12, 13 August. Yeah.
And the September one would be 9 and 10. No, it's not a face-to-face meeting. It's a virtual meeting, sorry. So it would be the 8th of September. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, can we also
Then-
just check this date, 10th of July? If I remember correctly, that's a Sunday.
I think
Maybe-
yes, because I think Linda asked me that question. Did she not?
I have no problem having a program on a Sunday. Just
It's on a Sunday, yes. But I think in the past, did we not do it the Monday? Or do
yeah,
we do it
typically
before?
if it
We
falls
do it
a
on a
Sunday,
Friday.
The Friday,
on the
so it would
no,
be
the
the
day
8th,
closest
the
day.
day after,
Yeah.
which is the 11th.
So if it would be on the Saturday, we would take the Friday, but on the Sunday.
Okay.
we'll-
Yes, I
Do
beg
the
your pardon,
Monday.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it's Sunday,
So
yes.
it's the 11th
Monday.
then.
Okay, so just that we know.
Okay. Then the only other one that I really, for now, have an issue with, because I'm not going to deal with the 2023 dates now, is in obviously December again. We'll probably decide closer to the time that that's not something that we're going to do. But everything else should be okay. Okay. Thank you. So that's the meeting dates taken care of. Okay. I wanted to know before we jump into the next item on the agenda, which is the student chapter and the restructuring documents. Do we want to take a short break? because that's a bit longer of a discussion, and I don't want us to break while we're having that discussions. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, I can go and make a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Yes, I can
Oh,
just.
Mr. President, can I just ask
Done.
something before
Yeah,
you
sure.
go? It's about IFLA.
Uh-huh.
Will it be possible for you to get some money from the city?
No. I don't know, actually. Let me not say outright no. It's something that can be explored, Dani, but I can't say definitely that it might turn out that way. But not
Thinking
completely out of the question.
Maybe if you ask them, for instance, for if they can pay your airplane ticket, and we can do the rest maybe, or
yeah,
they can give you a day allowance and we pay for the hotel and the airplane, or something like that.
Okay. No, it's something that we did in the city. When was the last time we had a face-to-face IFLA? The one in Greece, I think, worked out that way, where they paid something, and I can't remember what it was, and everything else would have been for the person's expense. So I think let me go and have a look at that again, Dania, and then I'll discuss it with my director and then see where we go from there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. It's now just about 25 past. Can we take a 10-minute break? Is that too short? Is that okay for everybody?
That's fine.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so then we'll be back at 25 to 3.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So next up on the agenda is the proposal for the student chapter. So this is the document that we asked for from the LIS forum. There was quite a bit of discussion yesterday in the EXCO meeting about the LIS forum. So I think there's quite a bit of linkages that's happening with them in various ways. Obviously, from an EXCO point of view, it's a body within the broader LIS sector, but also in light of their discussions around curriculum and everything else associated with that. There's obviously a further need to have more discussions. I picked up in the EXCO minutes somewhere that there was a presentation at the previous EXCO meeting, although the presentation wasn't included, so I don't know what was actually in it. One of the recommendations out of there was that the person who made the presentation was meant to have made the same presentation to the LIASA conference as part of the Department of Arts and Culture slot. But that obviously didn't happen. They felt it was too short a notice, and therefore it didn't happen. But apparently it happened in another forum. And obviously there's some grounds afoot to kind of get going with some of these things. So from our side, we've been talking about this whole idea about the student chapter for quite a long time. We've had Laforsi and the previous treasurer, Steve, working in the background on some of these things as well. And in terms of the documents that I sent to all of you, this particular document came from a meeting that we had with the LIS Forum, who had indicated that they were working on something that they wanted to put in front of us. And so here we are. This is the actual document that they forwarded to us. And I hope that everybody's had a chance to actually read it. And for us to have some discussion around how we feel about it. Rebecca, no, sorry, Anna-Marie, not Rebecca. Will you project the documents? If we can deal with the proposal document first, as opposed to the charter document. So
This one?
that one, yes, thank you very much. As I said, I hope everybody's had a chance to go through it. And I would like to open it for discussion for us to talk about. In terms of our discussion we had at the last meeting, we indicated that we want to give impetus to this and have something in place by next year, before, or at least by the time the students come back to campus. Looking at the documents that were sent by the forum, I'm not necessarily sure whether that's going to align to what we want to do. But again, I want us to have a discussion about it, because this is their proposal to us. We would need to comment on it from a LIASA perspective, say what is feasible for us, what we think cannot work for us, and then go back to them with whatever our concerns and our issues are. So can I open the floor and ask people to comment on the documents? And as I said, let's start with the proposal first. Yes, Rebecca.
I think I did go through, though I kind of scanned the document. But I think what is crucial for us is we know there's a need for the student membership, and currently they are paying a certain fee. So as one of exactly where the CASA is now, that they didn't join because of the high cost. But then, is it possible for them to come to the table with us, kind of negotiate? And we find that a feeling of how much are they prepared to pay, so that we then weigh the consequences and all that, because against the current membership fee. Because for me, it's a no for a free membership. They should pay at least a certain amount, but it will help us if we also have an idea as to how much they are prepared, or how much they invested paying for membership. Thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
I agree with Rebecca on that. I always say you won't be ever that rich in your life again when you when you were a student. So after you're a student and you start working, then all your other expenses and things come together. It's not your mom and dad that's paying for you. But I was that just on a lighter note. I was just thinking about maybe if we have the discussion with them, half the fee that we charge for pensioners, maybe 150 as a student. But I also agree it won't be for free.
Yeah, I think I don't want to be bogged down to membership fee. I would just say I agree with the document. Everything else we can always negotiate and talk about. I don't want to have a dissenting view because
why not?
Because I don't know I don't
that's
know
the
their situation.
That's the whole point.
I don't know their
of
situation. Yeah. My gripe is that for instance, I'm in higher education. Students that get for instance NSFAS funding, they get approximately also an additional 4,000 for textbook. But they don't buy them. And when you engage them, some of them, that money it's also supporting home. So
of course.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into that discussion just for Danny to say it might have been true in our times when everybody was working. But now with an unemployment rate at the level where it is, some students are using money that they should be using to fund their studying to support their families. Because but I think the proposal by Mukhadi I think is progressive, because that has always been my starting point in everything that we do. It's better to engage with the people that it affects, so that we don't make necessary assumptions, because we might be saying students cannot afford so much when they actually think they can afford so much. But they may come and say, yes, we are prepared to pay so much, but we are looking for this kind of support from LIASA, based on what you are paying, that kind of. So I'm supporting the document as it stands, because also in the document what Rebecca was saying it's under document. So that student it needs to be revisited and negotiated with the leadership. The same with the conference attendance. The same with the program. All of those, these are the things that when there is a structure that we can then talk to. So in short, I support the proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. I think part of the issue around the students are we do get bogged down in, I think, the membership and the payment side of things, which is maybe not our starting point. Our starting point is how do we engage them. And so I agree, it's something that we need to go back to the table with and say, we are prepared to do the following, this, but not that. And how do we take this forward? Interestingly enough, when I was looking at ALIA, so they, it's a totally different situation to South Africa, but I think it's always interesting to go and look at what other associations do. So they charge, obviously it's in Australian dollars, so I don't know what an Australian dollar is worth to the rand at the moment. But so for a student, you must, for example, be in an ALIA accredited course, and the fee is under 100 Australian dollars. In comparison, if you're a full member, for example, it's 360 Australian dollars. But they also look at student, and then they also look at new graduate. And they have a set fee, for example, for a graduate, and that fee applies for 2 years after they graduate. If they had completed an ALIA accredited course, and I found that really interesting. So I think there are very different ways to look at the whole student thing. I think it's an important aspect that we've neglected for a long time, but really something that we need to go back and yeah, I mean, I looked at the proposal. I don't think there was anything that I thought was really eye-glaringly wrong in the proposal. The only thing I think is the conference registration thing I thought was was a bit cheeky, because I don't think we can waive the cost of students. I do think that one of the things that we developed in the last conference, and something I think you must take note of, Charlie, when you do get around to chairing the conference committee, is we structured something that would appeal to students, but actually the structuring of the fees was actually put to the institution where they're at. So what we were proposing was that if X number of students registered from that institution, then this is the fee that would be applicable. Because I think it can't just be that we give everything and nothing is gained from the other side. So those are sticky points that's probably the only real sticky point I thought in the document. And I think something that I would like to comment on when I go back to the forum to say that these are things that we've got to negotiate about. If we can go, Anna-Marie, if there are no other comments, if we can go to the other document.
Sure.
Sorry.
Before we go to the other document, sorry,
Dani, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, please. Anna-Marie, every year we get that grant from DSAC now for conference attendance.
Correct.
Can't we make some of that available for students?
Yes, we have done that in the past. And the uptake for attendance wasn't very great. And I think it probably was because it was face-to-face conferences. So they still need to find funding for travel and accommodation.
Yeah. So maybe we can say that X amount can go for the conference registration, but they do need to pay accommodation and traveling.
Yeah.
Because that we cannot do for them.
Exactly. Nazim, if I can just comment as well.
No, sure. Sorry, Anna-Marie. I didn't want to.
No.
I forgot again.
No,
Go ahead.
I think skin, don't worry. I think we need to define student.
Okay.
We have seen even currently on the database and conference and so on, you will get M&D students that are fully employed that suddenly want to get the student fee. So we need to know what would count as a student. Is it only undergraduate, and postgraduate? Would it be anybody that is studying? So I think we just need to define that. Because if everybody, UNISA has hundreds of students, so it could be a bit of a sticky situation. Then again, at the fees, I don't mind if they get free membership, but we can't subsidize them. So with the free membership, then, for instance, no, they can't attend conference if it costs us money. They cannot get a printed copy of the LIT because it costs us money and so on. So if we decide, if they insist on free membership, we just need to look at what the benefits are and where we can, whatever is free, that we can get that to them. Yeah, I think those were the only issues I had. And yeah, I also thought the conference registration, of course, if it is online or virtual or hybrid, even if they attend online, then yes, we can look at waiving the cost or reduce the cost drastically. But unfortunately not for face-to-face, or they have to come with a little brown bag.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Anna Marie.
I think where it's a student, they must say that they are full-time students, because they are M and PhD students that doesn't work but study full-time.
But I think that must go into that whole bundle of what do we define as student and where do these things apply? Because again, I think like Charlie pointed out, we also can't just assume that this is how things are. And I think we can only do that once we start engaging with them around these issues. Okay, Anna Marie, can you project the other document for me, the charter document?
Nazim?
Yes, Rebecca, go ahead.
I think you're not able to see our hands. Beside mine, there was a Charlie as well. So, but mine
It doesn't show hands on my screen.
Is that the iPad again?
Yes, sorry.
No, mine was covered
Sorry.
by Danny.
Okay.
I agree with Anna Marie that we first have to define what we mean by student, because as Danny said, it's true. There are others that are MNDs but are full-time and not employed. So until we define that. But I also wanted to add to say, this brings us to the issue of engaging not only with the student, although we are discussing about the student chapter, but it brings us to engaging with the institutions itself, because that's where we could find out how best they could check up, or how best they could support their students as well. Because as they know, LIASA is an NPO. So I think we also have to take that discussion further with the various institutions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Charlie?
Yeah.
Sorry,
on that. Yeah, no, it's okay. On the issue.
No, go ahead.
Yes, on the issue that Anna Marie raised, I think what works, and that's an approach that we should we should also propose as LIASA too. The membership it's student membership to the institution where the student is. Their membership escalates in that part. So you belong, like I belong to Free State branch. You must belong to that. You must be in there, we have to find a way of working around it, because if you look at other student chapters of similar organizations, that's what they do. They've got their own committees. For instance, my son belongs to the Engineering Institute, but they every year they have their thing, they get elected. There's a committee that runs for University of Johannesburg. They don't even call it student chapter. It's just University of Johannesburg. And then it's the name of I think it's Association of Engineering something. Like that, it should be LIASA DUT branch, not LIASA student chapter. In that sense that at DUT, the person then we will be controlling the issue of the student. Then what it does, it eliminates anybody who's studying part-time and who's not active within that branch. But obviously the only question will come in, what happens to those who are unemployed and studying via UNISA and not who have an interest? Those are the things we can look and discuss. But the approach I think works is when that person belongs to that institution, and then because of that, when the Liasa office sends a report, it's a report of TUT, it's a report of Zululand, and those people that belong there and they know, so that they, even if they want to discipline a member, it's within their participation. I see now Nazim. I don't see Nazim now.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
this
just
is
sent a message. He lost connection. He is busy reconnecting.
Oh, okay. So anyway,
You chase him away, Charlie.
yeah, no. But anyway, it's just something that came into my mind. We can just continue with this document now.
Mm.
When
I
it
think
comes
from
Mm.
our side, when we engaged and asked them to draft something, it was more in the line of them also telling us what the students would expect, which I don't really see in either of their documents.
I think
I got kicked out there, so
yeah.
Yeah, by Charlie's voice. I just told him.
that's rude, Rebecca. Sorry, go on.
Glad you are back.
No, we are done. Nazim, I was just saying it's something that we can think about when we discuss with them. To say we need to define this, and this is just a suggestion from my side to say these are the things that we can do. But Anamari, what he mentions now when we're trying to join in is that in the document, they haven't really expanded in terms of what they expect and what are the things that they would like. But I'm saying, let's treat this document as the initial one. So when we engage with them, we can probe further, or when the president engages, we can probe further just to get to understand their
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay. So, any comments on the charter that they've put forward? Rebecca, because I can't see the hands, you must just shout at me if there is any hand that is raised there.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
So I think we've talked about some of the issues in the other documents. So the whole thing around membership fees, we've noted that in the other document. It applies to this particular document as well. One of the things, and I don't expect them to deal with it in their document, but one of the things I want us to talk about is in the context of restructuring, how do we see this document in the way they have drawn it up?
It's a sector.
Yeah, okay. So do we say if one of the sectors is academic, would they fall under that? Or do we treat them as a separate thing? Because they're not separate in a sense, they're actually part of the academic sector.
They are separate, their interests are quite different. If you take, for instance, if I have to use the university council as an example, yeah, you've got those sectors, you've got your alumni, what do they call them, convocation. They represent those people who donate and people who are linked with the university, but the student interest is different. So we should be, whilst they come from higher education, they even now, that's why they don't fit in. Is exactly that. So we should see
Okay, I
them
get your
as
point. Yeah. Okay. No, I get your point, Charlie. Okay. Any other
especially
comments?
Yeah, this document for me it works because if you look at it, it would be a structure, and which is likely gonna be able to, because if if each institution is represented, it means it's gonna be able, this structure gonna be able to operate. Because even if and I see they also have got an alternate. So if one falls off, there is another one also representing that institution. So there is hope for this structure. The only thing that I was not certain about is it's their meetings, because they did indicate that they want to meet 4 times a year.
4 times a year.
Yeah. So,
well, they say minimum, now, so it could be more than that.
Yeah, they could be more than that. So the only thing that we need to do now in relation to what Anamare raised, what do they expect in terms of these meetings? Are they virtual? Because in terms of the cost, how are they going to, so that's but if it's going to be virtual, and one of those meetings then will be around the conference,
of course,
then I don't think it would be a challenge.
Okay.
So that's the only clearing thing that I saw that for me it raised a question in terms of if I have to use the same example, the one I was talking about, the engineering student association at UJ, it does things on its own. They only attend the end of the year function for the engineering which is, so all universities send they go and join. It's sort of a gala dinner kind of environment. Okay. So everybody carries their own costs. So they are not like this, but this structure, it's a national structure. The way it's proposed, it's not a federal one. So there might be cost involved. This is where we need to just look at the risk and address the risk related to that.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, I was also looking at the meetings that the number of meetings that they've put here, and asked myself, at first I thought maybe it is their meeting, not necessarily with us, but yeah, I think it goes back to...
No, it's...
Sorry. Yes?
Go on, Rebecca.
Oh, okay. I think it goes back to not necessarily defining, but coming up with the agenda. What is it that they are looking for in all meetings? What are the discussions? Because like that one could be at the conference. We know that what they will be doing at the conference, but the other 3 meetings, for example, what is the agenda? You know, so that they don't just come up with a number and without.
No, that's fine. I think that is what Charlie and Anna Marie had indicated. You know, what is the meetings actually all about? So, and I think it is a given, because if you look at the way it's structured, they expect us to be, well, some of us to be at that meeting. So you'll see ex officio is myself and Charlie right now, and in attendance would be the LIASA. Well, they say LIASA Secretariat, but I'm assuming that means you, Rebecca. Which is something we've got to clarify there, because I'm not sure what they're actually referring to.
The whole EXCO.
Yeah,
okay.
maybe on the, whilst on the document, I think what we can talk about in that document, it's those two that the chairs raised, the ex officio and the attendance.
Yeah.
I don't see the value of the president and the president-elect forming part of the student chapter, because they are already in EXCO. The student chapter, it's if we have to use an analogy of the chapters of political organization, they exist on their own. You can't then expect the president of the association of that organization to be an ex officio in that. But there's nothing preventing the president to attend. The only thing, when it's ex officio, then it means we are a voting member of them.
Exactly.
So no, we don't want to escalate this one. As much as we are not ex officio in our in branches, this we view it as an interest group. We are not ex officio in interest groups. So those are the two things that we can challenge. If there's the issue of the secretariat, it's because of the capacity, then it's an issue that we can address, but we can't expect the secretary of Liasa to be part of.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Good afternoon. Oh, it's Linda here. Good afternoon, Linda.
Good afternoon, Nazim. Good afternoon, colleagues. Apologies for being late. Work commitments I couldn't run away from.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on this document, or can we leave it at that for now? We'll write back to them and raise the issues that we've covered in our discussions, and then we'll take it from there.
Yes, just for my benefit, what would be the next, or am I correct to understand that the president is engaging with the forum?
I think for now, let it flow through me, Charlie. And then as we move along, I think we can decide how we want to deal with it going forward. The alternative is that I make you the champion of it. But I think because it's come from the forum, I think for now, let me deal with it.
Yes.
And let us get the terms as well as the definitions of things and how it's meant to work right first. And then I think we can talk about what comes after that. Who is the person that they contact with, etc., and how the structure works, etc. If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay. So if there's nothing else, can we then move on to restructuring? So I sent you two documents. The initial document, I just drafted based on the information that we have at hand. I did send it to Charlie to have a look at. And the second document that you then got was Charlie's comments on that document and a couple of things that he wants us to consider before we put this out to Rep Council, because that would be the next step for us. Again, I assume that everybody has read both documents and that we don't need to discuss the nitty-gritty detail. But our discussion this afternoon is more about how do we, our thoughts about the documents, how do we take the next step forward, how do we marry these two things, etc. And I think then let it go out, because I think that's really important. It's actually the whole impetus behind us doing this thing. So if you will allow me, I'm going to start off, and I just want to put certain things there in terms of the context of our conversation. Because I had raised it in the email to Charlie, but just that everybody's kind of all on the same page with the two of us. So in drafting this particular document, I really had to go and hunt for particular pieces of information, because I think it hasn't really been well documented. I think, like we discussed when we had our EXCO meeting, a lot of these things have been presented somewhere, either in a virtual environment or in a face-to-face environment. But in terms of actually putting it down on paper, there's not much that actually speaks to it. It's partly how we got onto the route we're taking now in terms of addressing the issue. So I really had to go and look at recordings. I had to go and look at documentation where they were available. And then from those bits and pieces, I actually had to structure something together. So in terms of where we find ourselves, in terms of our structure, and in terms of our guidance by our membership, who still is the highest authority in terms of the association, we kind of stuck in 2019's AGM. So 2019's AGM, and I did make it known in the preamble to the document, is that's the point where the structure was put in front of people. The structure as it is now, the structure to be, and some discussion took place at that point. Out of that 2019 AGM, that is it's not even a motion, because I actually went to listen to the recording. It's a proposal that was put forward with a view to putting a motion in place. So in terms of that proposal, EXCO and Rep Council, in a sense, was sent back and said, while we agree to the administrative side of things, so that little block that speaks to membership, the board, secretariat, convenience, etc., the other part of the document is not necessarily what AGM agreed to. And what EXCO was instructed to do was to engage Rep Council around the concept of what that document is meant, or what that structure is meant to be. EXCO was given until the 30th of June of 2020 to come up with a proof of concept, so to speak. What was meant to happen leading up to that was, as the normal sense of what happens in conference, there is a Rep Council meeting following immediately after conference. So this matter was from AGM was supposed to be taken to that Rep Council meeting. From there, the next Rep Council meeting, which would normally have been in February, between those two meetings, members of Rep Council were supposed to engage with their members. So the branches with the members of the branch. I'm not exactly sure how the interest groups were going to do it, because most of them fall within branches in any case. They were supposed to have these discussions with their branches and the members, come back to the Rep Council meeting in February, report back on what those meetings entailed. And then from there, EXCO and Rep Council would then start working on a document that would show the proof of concept. What happened in reality, after that was that the Rep Council meeting following that was a shambles. The matter was not discussed at that Rep Council meeting. The February Rep Council meeting didn't take place because the president at the time wanted to have an indaba, which didn't come off the way it was planned because then we got hit with COVID. We went into lockdown, things didn't happen. And despite the best of intentions, things continued not being done. Eventually, if you all remember, an indaba meeting was held at the end of July in this year. And again, I think a failing of what happened in that indaba meeting was there were certain statements made by the president in light of restructuring, in light of the structure that she'd actually put forward to AGM in 2019. But what should have happened out of that indaba was whatever was discussed there was supposed to have been brought to the AGM of 2021. Because again, membership is the highest decision-making authority in the ALSA. So if you do not, even if you decide the most wonderful things at an indaba meeting, if you do not bring it to the membership in an AGM and the membership does not decide on where we go after that, it then merely becomes talk. And unfortunately, and if I have to be really blunt about it, the president's EXCO did not know what was going to be taken to the AGM. That president's report was done in isolation, and whatever was presented at the AGM did not necessarily have the input of EXCO. So had we actually been consulted, had we known what was not being put forward at AGM, we could have advised and have said, but Madam President, these are the things that you should take to AGM because these are the matters that you discussed in the indaba, and therefore we can't move forward. So the only thing that was mentioned at the AGM was the 2019 AGM and what came out of there, the fact that we couldn't give impetus to that. So we kind of stuck in a time where we're dealing with the issue that came out of the 2019 AGM, because that's the last thing the membership approved. And so here we find ourselves 2 years later, dealing with exactly that same issue. And I am determined that we're not going to get stuck in the same rut. I think we've already gone steps beyond that. From our last EXCO meeting, we've already put a roadmap in place. The roadmap that I initially put forward when I did my incoming speech and in other places has somehow been overtaken by what we've decided in terms of this white paper, green paper route that we're taking, which is a good thing because I think it accelerates certain things and I think it can only be good for us. So some of the things have shifted forward, and after that long speech of mine, what we actually need to now work on, in my view, and we can talk about it, is exactly what AGM told EXCO to do in 2019. Unfortunately, it now becomes our burden that we need to be saddled with. But if I look at what we've already done up to this point in terms of this document, in terms of Charlie's response, I think we're way further than anywhere that we've been in the last 2 years. So just so that everybody understands where we're coming from, what we're dealing with, and if I look at the roadmap that was sketched at the 2019 AGM and what needs to be delivered to the membership to make the next decision, then I think we're following the right route. So what we need to present at this next AGM is exactly what was asked for at the 2019 AGM, because restructuring requires a change to constitution. What we're asking for in terms of restructuring requires a certain notice period, and I've listed it in the document, what is required. And if we follow the route that we've plotted for our white paper, our green paper, and our final bill, so to speak, then I think we actually on track. If we don't get sidelined and if we don't get delayed by this ambitious thing that we've put into motion. Because by the time we have to send out AGM documentation, which is around about the end of June, then according to what we've put forward, we would have done all of these things in terms of consultation. And then I think we will be okay in being able to take the next step forward to AGM. So, having said all of that, I want us to have some discussion about the two documents, because I want us to get to a point where we can finalize on this. I'm not necessarily saying that we need to finalize it right here in this meeting because it might take us too long. But in terms of our timeline, I need this document to be finalized by the end of November. According to our next step, we said we would consult Rep Council, ask them for input, kind of last minute tweaks to the document before we send it out to the broader membership for them to provide input to the white paper. And that needs to happen from the 15th of December. I think it's what our timeline says. So any comments up to this point? Again, Rebecca, you just have to tell me if there are any hands raised. Okay, Charlie, I can actually see your hand this time. Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Nazim. I think you have captured it nicely. Actually, the way what we have done, you have made it such that I'm glad because you seem to have patience of going through documents and listening to people, and which is what I observed quite early. That was my understanding, but what was happening in the last 2-3 years, it has always been as if there was a decision taken, whereas my recollection was that's why in our branch we then had meetings to discuss input, so that when our rep council when our reps go to attend the rep council, they would have an input from the branch, and that was supposed to happen around February. That's how we prepared for it, because that was our understanding that we would then have that input. And I'm not sure if Anna Marie does listen to people's to branches comments during a meeting when he's assisting with the logistics of the meeting. But even in the last, because I was invited to in the last branch meeting from my branch, when I was just sharing with them that this is an approach that we would be taking. One and the previous chair even said, no, advising the incoming committee to say, guys, we don't have to start from scratch. We have this document that we discussed in December, the previous 2019, So in essence, I agree with the approach, and I suggest that we can maybe make inputs into the restructuring process itself, because like and for me nothing changed much, because the main thing is that the main stakeholder or the membership, it's the main. So what we are trying to fit in, it's the governance structure which has been identified as a board. But these governance, what happens between AGMs? Because a board is similar to executives. And what happened between the AGMs, you need to have input from the main stakeholder. So we need to create a cushion or an advisor, sort of a body that picks in. So those are the analogies that comes to mind. So for me, the perceived structure still remains the same. The only thing that needs to be addressed by us is the whole issue around secretariat. Now that we know where we stand in terms of membership, because remember, the whole issue around governance and good governance is that you need to identify the risk and look at the sustainability of the organization, because it might make good sense to have an executive or either a chief or a director executive and the infrastructure. But if you cannot sustain it, then it's irresponsible. Then the membership can take a legal make a legal case against individuals who took that decision, in this case against us, the people who would then ultimately implement, to say, you were irresponsible with our monies, you came up with this thing, you said it will work, and it doesn't work. So for me, is that I agree that let's try and see if we can work, create some work with this document and see if we can find a middle ground between what we've got, because currently it's also, mine is also skewed because it's based on what I know. But now that we are all here, we can look at that and see, because the main thing for us as an EXCO is just to say it should be something that would work. That is the only parameter that would determine. So we should propose something that would work, because we don't want to be part of the people who then destroyed Liasa as a body. When people look back and say Nazim, Charlie, Rebecca, Dani, and Linda, these are the people who, this was the last Liasa when these people were executive. And these are the people who caused the downfall. That would be my initial submission, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And if I stop listening, you must please tell me, because some people, they may not go there. One of the things, coming to your document, the one thing I will say, if I must give our former president a due, I think wherever she went and she presented the structure, that was the one thing I think she was always mindful of, that everything involved in this must be have King 4 underlying what our intentions are. So I think that's always been, but I'm glad that you reminded me, because I think it's something that needs to go into the document, that we say it quite explicitly. The one thing that I don't want us to do in this EXCO, which is my experience in the previous one, and please understand me, I mean no disrespect when I say these things. It is the experience that I had, and these are the things that I'm determined will not happen to us. I don't want King 4 to be the thing that trips us up and holds us back and stops us from doing anything. Because in the previous term, we also talked a lot about King 4, but the end result did not end up in something that was tangible. And that's the one thing I do not want us to do, that we get so fixated on the principles of that document informing what we are intending to do, and then we end up doing nothing. At the end of these 2 years, and in the next 2 years after this, Charlie, when you take over, people must not be able to say, but what did we do? Because we talked a lot of things, but we maybe didn't do a lot of things. We basically catching up to 2 last years in a lot of things. And I'm not pointing fingers because I was part of the same structure, so I must accept the blame as much as the person who headed the structure. But be that as it may, I do think that some of the issues that you raised in your document, to me, I think we do need to bring it in here. Again, I think to emphasize that this is the underlying principles of what we are trying to do here. The one thing that I will say, though, from your document is in terms of what we want to present in the white paper, and I think you have brought it up. I think it's great that, for example, in the Free State, Jeanette actually took to heart what was meant to happen. She went, she had the discussion, so at least there's nothing that needs to happen from scratch again. But I think for many of the branches, that didn't happen. And so I think what I don't want us to necessarily do is to preempt what people's input is going to be. Because some of the things I note that you've noted in your document is we can't predict what people are going to say. We need to put a position on the table and say, this is our position, because that's the point of the white paper, is to say, this is what has been agreed to. This is now what we're putting in front of you. Furthermore, this is what we possibly think could happen. So let's take the board issue, for example. If you remember back, because I think you raised issues around it, for example, Charlie, at that 2019 AGM, we've never explicitly talked about the composition of the board anyway, from what I can pick up. We maybe had discussions in an EXCO level about the board, but it was never communicated to people other than making broad statements around how many members should be on the board. So the detail around the board was not there. And I think that was partly what got people's backs up about the word board, because there was no concrete detail to it. So again, the membership does not know what that board detail is meant to entail, because it's never been explicitly stated to them. The other thing around the secretariat, so if you scroll down a bit, Anne-Marie, to the next part of what the structure looks like, which specifically talks to that secretariat portion. That secretariat bit there, to me, is not even where we started off with. I mean, even when I wrote this document, I was of a mind, Charlie, like you've been in when you wrote your response to me, of no, but this is not how it should be. And then I had to pull myself back and say, but I can't talk about what I think needs to be. I need to talk to what has been presented to membership. So much as I don't agree with the secretariat structure that is there, that's what I need to put in front of people and say, this is what is being proposed to you. If I look at that secretariat thing, I mean, the first thing I thought of was, what does administration mean? For me, if I look at how we deal with HR matters, do we necessarily have to have somebody who deals, and Nikki herself said it somewhere in a meeting around HR, but it's there. The same thing with ICT. I don't see why ICT needs to be part of the secretariat. I agree, there's a place for finance, there's a place for training and development, there's marketing and advocacy. For me, should be combined into something. I think there's a place for research. I think there's possibly a place for publishing, but for me, those are kind of long-term things. But again, I have my ideas around it, but I can't put my ideas there because that was not what was debated in front of people. And I think we've got to be careful about how we communicate this to people, and we shouldn't be putting there what wasn't presented to people. I like the fact that you've come up with what King 4 says about a board. So I think part of what we could put in the document is to say, when people comment on this document, and maybe we need to structure the document to also say, these are things that have not been explained in detail. So while AGM is asked for a proof of concept around the structure, they didn't ask us to present something around the board. But we also need to start engaging people around thinking about those things. So I agree with you in your, as you've put in your document, we need to say, if we are going to be governed by King 4, then this is what King 4 says about the board. But I don't think at this point we can say to them, this is what the board will actually consist of. But I think the broad principles around what King 4 says about a board and an NPO, that's what we need to put in front of people, because that needs to be the next difficult conversation we need to have with people. So if I go back to my original roadmap in what I thought we would do is that we would do some of this groundwork around the Secretariat, because that was what is agreed to leading up to AGM. Some of the AGM stuff is now moved forward, so we've got to deliver by AGM 2022. But in my original thinking around the roadmap, I thought that the board and those things are things that we grapple with following AGM 22. But nothing prevents us from putting the thought there for people in terms of thinking about how must a board be constructed in terms of numbers versus NPOs. But I don't think we can go so far as to say it must be like you've got it there. It's a person from CHALSA, it's a person from Public Library Directors thing. I think that's a discussion that must still happen. But those are kind of my next thoughts about it. So again, I'm opening it up to people. What are your thoughts? Do you fundamentally disagree with me, agree with me? As I said, Charlie and I have had at least an email conversation about these things, but I would like to hear from everybody your thoughts around it. Linda.
I'm not sure whether I'm hearing correctly. Please correct me if I am. I'm so exhausted that I can't grasp properly. Are you saying therefore what we're gonna present this year is not gonna go into details what the structure would look like? I'm just confused.
Okay, so remember the document with the lines.
Yes.
Remember, that's the structure that's been put in front of people. So there's two things that have been put in front of people. The one is the image that was on the screen before this, that thing around the Secretariat. And that, in essence, is what people have agreed to at the 2019 AGM. The next thing that was put in front of people is your most favorite document in the world, the one with all the lines. But remember, that's the portion of the structure that AGM was not prepared to approve at that point. And then sent EXCO back and said, no, you need to come back with a proof of concept of how this thing would work, because we can't quite see it at this point in time. So we were then given until June of the next year to come to AGM with a proof of concept.
Oh, okay. No, I'm getting you now. So what you're saying is what we're going to take to the AGM now is the proof of concept that we did not submit.
Yes,
that
in essence, that's what we're aiming to do. But I think when we consult people and when we present these white papers and green papers, I think the whole idea is to also stimulate their thinking around the other parts of the structure. Because again, I think, like Charlie's indicated in the freeze, that they've already had a discussion following the 2019 AGM. So they've already decided what their input was going to be to the structure that was proposed there. So when we send out the white paper, that's the opportunity to present those inputs that they were never given the opportunity to, based on what was meant to have happened. So there was meant to be a rep council and another rep council leading up to the proof of concept. So nobody had that opportunity. Even when that Indaba meeting was held now in July, it's not like people really, that was my sense of it, really engaged with it in terms of detail. So our idea around it is to write this white paper to give people the opportunity to comment on it and actually say, actually, we don't like this about the structure, or actually we proposing an alternate structure. Because remember this, we also talked about at the last EXCO meeting. At this point, we can't give them an alternate structure because we're dealing with an outcome of an AGM. But nothing prevents let's use the Free State branch as an example. Nothing prevents the Free State branch, when they're providing input to the white paper, to say, but we have an alternate structure because we don't see that the structure could actually work. Charlie and then Rebecca.
Yeah, yeah, Chair. Then it means we are not supposed to be looking at the documents themselves. But what we need to do now is to simply package your document and send it out just to Rep Council to say, this is a document relating to 2019 resolution, and this is what was supposed to happen. And because it never happened, we are now opening it up. So it becomes it's a document because it limits me. I can't call it my white paper. I can't call it Nazim Hadi's EXCO white paper because it's not our inputs. If it's something that we were going to draft as an EXCO, it will be our white paper that we are sharing it with the rep and the membership. But now, with your submission to say this was a resolution from the AGM, and this is what was supposed to happen, which did not happen due to different reasons. We now, as this new EXCO, we are putting it out. We're giving people this time to comment. We don't have to worry now about the timeline of trying to conclude even this one before the AGM, so that by the AGM, meaning that there is no way we can review the Constitution, because if we are not going to look at the structure now, because the structure has to go into you have to tell the Constitution, this is how we are going to operate. This is how we are going to meet. This is how the structure is going to look like. So if we are not going to begin doing that now, it means we go back to your original roadmap, where we're looking at 2023, where we might have a draft constitution that we can take to the members. But for now, this is a document that is available based on the resolution of the 2019 AGM. We can immediately send it out to Rep Council because it's a familiar document to them. We tell them this is the document, we're sending it out. They can to general membership for contribution, because there is no proof of concept we can do with this document. There is no way we can create a secretariat, because you cannot have, if you look at this document, secretariat replaces EXCO. So you can't have an EXCO and a secretariat as a proof of concept. How would that work? So in short, my parting shot is that in line with what we have just explained, seeing that we cannot now try and introduce those things, because now let's give everybody, so meaning that we are just moving this, we are rolling back the clock to say this is an AGM resolution, this is an AGM decision. We are now implementing the AGM decision to say, take this back to members, let members contribute. Come February, the Rep Council will sit down, look at the input from the different branches and interest group on this issue. Then we begin to draft a green paper based on those submissions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. But I think that's still, I think it's still in line with what we originally, in some ways, talked about at our October meeting, Charlie. I don't want us to lose sight of that, because I think if we look at, for example, the fact that there's no Mpumalanga branch, so unlike it being a consultation in that way, for example, this is going to come from EXCO. But I do want to put some of the things that you put in your document to me into this document and redraft it slightly. And I do think that we do need to work on getting something to AGM. We might not change the constitution, but I think we do need to work on some of these aspects. But let me hear what Rebecca has to say, and then I'll come back to it. Rebecca?
Oh, I found myself in limbo here now. I'll try and say what I wanted to say, but perhaps my intention is not to take you back, and it's also not to, yeah. The EXCO was expected to come up with proof of concept on this document that was shared, that was proposed to AGM. So if I may ask, does that mean this is cast in stone? And can we not change anything in trying to come up with the proof of concept? The same way that we're going to take this to membership, I'm sure they are allowed to bring some ideas. This, to me, I thought it was just some guide so that we can then work within it. But are we not supposed to change where we see fit? I'm sorry, like I said, it now brings a whole lot of other things. And if we were to take this as much as you indicated, Nazim, earlier that you have some ideas on secretariat other than what has been put like this here. So are we not supposed to model that towards our thinking even before we share or circulate to members, so that we have applied our thinking rather than just ticking? That's why I'm asking, is this cast in stone? So if we are to do that, because it may come back and from membership, and we also realize other things, where is our input before we could also take it forward? Yeah, sorry, thanks.
Thanks, Rebecca. Can I hear from Dani, Anna-Marie, your thoughts?
President, yeah, I think I've heard what Charlie said about the secretariat. But if I can speak for finances, I think in the future, the finances can be part of the LNO office as well as the accountant. We're already moving in that direction, where there's a software package that the accountants make available for us that we can use. And the people from the office are feeding in all the invoices and things like that. So in the light of that, I think it won't be the whole EXCO that's going to be part of the secretariat. Especially, well, the treasurer will then fall away if we go that way. And I think it would be good if there's somebody from outside the organization, like the accountants, to also be there. That would only be good governance.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry,
Yeah.
Chair. Just quickly, Danny. I think we need to understand two things. There's difference between operations and there's difference with governance. EXCO Rep Council, it's governance. They are not involved in the day-to-day running. What you are speaking to is correct. That's a national office. Those people are, when you structure their job description, if one is responsible for finance, responsible for finance. If we had money, if we had a big organization, we would have a finance director or a chief financial officer who would be. But above that person, there's somebody who look at governance. Who's gonna look at is the finance director and his finance team procuring things in line with the procurement policy of the organization. And are they, that is governance. We are looking at, because the office staff cannot be held accountable for members would not, they can be disciplined by the organization, but they cannot be held accountable. The accounting officer, in this case, the EXCO and Rep Council are the ones the members gave powers to. And that's why that mandate, you cannot delegate a mandate in terms of governance. But what we are speaking to is correct. It's the operation part. And there's no, and it's correct. I agree with you, it's correct. You can't have the governance getting involved in the day-to-day, because now who then looks after? Because that's why in finance, you get somebody who creates a transaction, you get somebody who approves the transaction. You can't have one person doing the same thing. So if you are sitting at the governance, but you are part of the approval, then who's not checking? We are part of the people who initiate the transaction. Then it becomes a challenge. And that's what good governance is all about. And maybe just to answer Nazim, the issue of King 4, the way it's done. What was bogging down the previous EXCO is that you guys were lip service. The previous EXCO was lip servicing King 4. They were mentioning the principles without ticking the box. To be honest, there was not even a single principle that was being fulfilled. For instance, the report that the president presented to AGM, it's not, why is the president report? It's not the president report, it's the EXCO's report. Because the president reports on behalf of EXCO. Already are not ticking the box. The finance starts from EXCO, goes to Rep Council. When it's presented to the AGM, it's Rep Council's financial report, not the treasurer's report. It's just the treasurer is a presenter. So if you don't tick those boxes, already we are not complying with King 4 and those kind of things. So it doesn't mean that if we want to comply with King 4, because anyway, if somebody takes us to court, they are going to use that, because it's not like we've got a choice. If you are an NPO, already in principle, you should comply with those things. So if somebody charges you for negligence, they are going to charge you based on those things, to say you fail in your fiduciary duties to make sure that procurement at Liasa was happening in the correct way, or you failed in the fiduciary duties to look at the risk related to this. They are not going to say no because you are not in compliance with that. So I agree. I think I take into consideration your input, Chair, when you were saying you would improve on this document, because I was getting worried to say, if we're going to circulate the current document, the lines document, the way it is now, then without our input, then it might be as well. That's why I'm saying we might as well send it, because this document is not new to Rep Council. We might send it to Rep Council so that we send it out, then people make comments. Then we know that come February, we would then put all our inputs, EXCOs, Rep Councils, and the one from branches interest group, to develop a document that would speak to this. But what I was questioning is that, how do you do a proof of concept on something that doesn't exist? Because I need to come to you and say, here is something, then you can put it as a proof of concept to say, this is what I'm implementing. So now my question is, what will be a proof of concept? What is it exactly? What is it that we would put forward and say, this is a proof of concept, so that we can look at it? Because currently we don't have anything.
Okay, I hear you, Charlie. Again, and maybe I'm answering this in a roundabout way. So if I look at, again, if we look at what was put on the table, much as we laugh about it, that was the document that was put in front of people. I think, like you pointed out in your document, Charlie, even the person who put it out on the screen did not necessarily think that it was necessarily going to work, or that people were ready for it, I think is what the words were. Be that as it may, that is actually what was put in front of people. And I think if we put this document out the way it is now, and we marry it with some of the content that is in your document, so that we just, I think, beef it up a little bit, then I think there's enough there for people to engage with. Even if it comes back to us in the February meeting, that people are saying, but this is something that actually can't work. One of the things I thought about after I'd sent you all the documents and after your comment, Charlie, is there's another recording I've got to listen to, and I just didn't have the time to do it. Because in some way you've got to explain the document that has the line, or this thing that has the actual that has that actual diagram on it with the lights. Because as the document stands now, it's actually, I mean, I've said something about it in there, but it actually doesn't tell people what it's actually meant to do. So that's one of the things that I think must be added to this document, so that people can engage with something. Because I hear what you're saying, people need to know what they're actually engaging with. So there's no use you also put it there, and then you don't tell people what it actually is meant to represent. Yes, people are familiar with it, but people don't necessarily know what it is. But I think let's put something out. Let's put the document out. I'm going to rework it slightly to add the bits that I just talked about. I want to add some of the things that you had in your document, Charlie, and put it in here. And then I want to send it back and say, how does everybody feel about it now? And then I think we should send it out. Because I think once we've sent it out and once we've received some input from people, then at the February meeting, yes, we can actually regroup on it. And then say, what is the next step forward? And even if that next step forward is then to say, but actually, everybody agrees, Redco, EXCO, the broader membership agrees that the document with the lines actually can't work for us as a structure. The Secretariat doesn't quite work in the way that it actually shows there, then that's what we've got to take on board. And that's what we've got to plot into the next part of this roadmap that we're on. But I think at the end of it, we need to, by the time you become president, there must be something tangible for us to say, this is who we are. And that's what we're working towards. And one of the things, and I picked it up in your document, Charlie, is that something we've never discussed in the structure is you can't, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, you can't propose a structure and on the, I'm just using an arbitrary date. So my term ends on the 30th of September, Charlie takes over on the 1st of September or 1st of October, and there's a new structure. Because I think restructuring is not that clean and simple and smooth. So somewhere there also, and I think you make mention of it somewhere there needs to be this bridging structure that bridges the old structure to the new structure. And that's never been discussed anyway. So I think there's quite a bit of work still that needs to still happen after we put out this document. And I think those are details that really, for me, is what occupies our time after AGM 2022, leading up to AGM 2023. Anna Maria, I said I was going to give you the time to express your thoughts. So,
sure, yeah. I think lots have been said up to now, and yeah, basically I agree with all the viewpoints. I just think that there's something missing in all this, and that is what is happening with the branches and interest groups. So in the one document, we sort of addressed from history what is happening with the Secretariat, and then in the other document, we have sort of a plan for the board, but the actual elephant in the room that caused this whole notion to restructure is not being addressed. How do we restructure those substructures? What do we do with branches and interest groups? So I think if we're going to merge the two documents, we just need to have something about branches and interest groups as well, because that is the part that gets the branches and interest group, BECs, and other EXCOs, their backs up.
Okay, yeah, noted, Anna Marie. And I think a valid point that you bring up, because my one speaks about why we got to this point, and I think Charlie's document talks about what's to be. And again, it's that whole thing about what is the bridge between those two things. And I do think one of the things we need to think about also is when we send this document out is what is the narrative that goes with the document? Because we can't just give it to Rep Council and say, here it is, go and think about it and talk about it. I think we've got to give them a context and a narrative over and above what is in the document to say, I think some of the things that we've been talking about. Okay, we've said a lot of things. Yeah, Anna Marie.
Sorry. We also need to give them clear instructions what we want from them, how we want the feedback. Because I remember the road shows where the questions asked of the people were very vague. I mean, we really didn't gain anything from the feedback we got from that. So, as you say, very clear in what we want back from them after the document has gone out.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Anna Marie. You never gave people the road shows were a waste of time. We never gave people a chance to express because there was time limitation. That was the main concern from my observation, because it ended up, because now when you can't do a follow-up, because immediately if somebody says something that it's not in line with what you are looking for, you would then be able to make a feedback to say, guys, this is what, like now what President is doing, it's saying, guys, while you may have brilliant ideas, this is a resolution of the AGM. Then you guide people, then people comment going forward in that direction. But during those roadshows, actually, I can speak only for my branch because I was only in my branch. The limitation, because it was not, we even commented, it was no longer siyalalela, it was siyakhuluma, because what happened, the EXCO and the national office spoke for almost 1 hour, 45 minutes, and we were left with 15 minutes for our input. Therefore, the people were not listening to what the members were going to say. Because immediately when somebody says something, it reflects that person's fears. So as a leader, what you do, you listen to that fear and you say, how then can we address the fear? Because sometimes a fear is just a perception. And that person's perception is that person's reality. Don't dismiss it because it's wrong. The perception is wrong. But make that person to realize that their perception is wrong. You know, I think that's where the mishap happened. And I agree with you when you say what we would need. That's why my understanding from what the president was saying, he's gonna stretch these two members to say, this is the resolution that was taken in 2019. This is what was supposed to happen. This didn't happen due to COVID and other issues. So now we are bringing it back we are trying to finalize it. So this is at a stage where we are based on the roadshows, and this is where this document is. Now we are presenting it to you members. Can you please comment on it by this date? And we can even give them the roadmap to say it will be discussed by REPCO during around this time, and it will be sent, the consolidated inputs will be sent back to members again for their input. And then so in that sense, I think it's gonna be able to address what we are raising, so because now remember, their input will be based on the document. So people won't be raising things that are outside. If they are outside, it's fine. I think the only thing that we can do as EXCO that we can commit to, which is what was also lacking, is that if somebody raised things, we should try at least respond as much as we can, as far as possible. So if something is not relevant, you need to respond to that person and say, for this round, this is what we're looking at. This one will be addressed in this, but let us not ignore them, because that's what creates anxiety. That's what creates uncertainty. So that will be my proposal.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I think I also wanted to kind of end off on this. I think we kind of have an idea of where we're going to go next, and I think we've raised really valuable points. I think whatever has happened in the past, much as we've talked about it today, I think let's not dwell on it anymore. Well, we can't change it. We are the EXCO now, and people are going to look at us. Let us use it as a yardstick to say that's not who we are. That's not what we're going to do. And I think let us actually be seen as doing something. I'd rather have us as an EXCO be criticized for doing something than for us to be criticized for doing nothing. If I leave nothing else behind when I go, then that's what people must be able to say. So I think we have a clear plan of what we're going to do. I think we've put a roadmap there for white paper, green paper, etc. I think as far as possible, we're still going to try and stick to some of those things. So from here on out, I'm going to rework it slightly. I'm going to try and marry what is in Charlie's document. into the one that I wrote originally. I'm going to send it back to all of you. And if we can, I will do that for the very latest, I'll send it to you by Monday. And in that week, if you can give your feedback on it or tell me that you're happy with it or amend where it's needed, we send it out to Rep Council by no later than 1 December. In our original plan, we said we want their feedback by the 15th, I think it is, whereafter we'll send it out to the membership. I do intend to write a second bulletin where I will make the broader membership aware that this is what is coming their way, so that we pave the way for them, and it doesn't just come out of the blue. And I think that will be the start of this process. And then I think let's see where it takes us. I think much as there are uncertainties from our discussion now, I think we have a path ahead of us that we want to travel, and I think let's go there and let's see what it brings us. Okay. Do you want to have a 5-minute leg stretch? Yeah. So Charlie, I think that's something we did say in our last thing, and Anna Marie, it's something that you will need to comment on before we send it out to people. We said we would create platforms where people would be able to provide feedback and comment on. And I take your point, Charlie. I think it is important to acknowledge each and every comment, not to treat it dismissively, even if we think it's a whole lot of nonsense that a person is talking. That's not going to be our attitude about it. I think we need to be mindful of the fact that everybody is entitled to have an opinion and input, and I think we need to treat it with that respect. So on the platform that we're going to create, I think we will create the mechanisms to acknowledge their input and their comments, and where needed, we will try to answer every single comment and input, even if it is just to say that this is something that will come in the next document or whatever it is. So that is my intention for us to do. So there's some things that we still have to go on in terms of the agenda, but can we maybe just have a 5-minute leg stretch if everybody's okay? I just need some water. Okay, shall we be back at 20 past?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone. Sorry. Okay, everybody back?
Yes.
I'm back.
Okay. All right. Last stage. Library week 22. Linda, are you gonna maybe talk to it? You and Anna Marie, and Charlie maybe just give input as he's driving. Where are we? How's it progressing?
Hi Nazim, I was not in the meeting yesterday. I had something that got me the whole night. I'm just gonna go through what I know, and then maybe the members who were at the meeting can go through that. In the last meeting that we had to discuss how our program would look like. So I had a meeting with Anna Marie, and maybe Anna Marie can present what maybe she did yesterday at the meeting, and maybe there were amendments in that part. But also, just for everybody to know, is that the library meeting, the library week will be launched on the 14th of March, and it's going to be virtual. And there were other things that we discussed on the marketing that we are going to do. I'm going to just go through them, and then maybe you can add if there was an addition yesterday. So we thought of maybe we will get somebody who's going to be, okay, that is on the agenda, sorry. Somebody who's going to recite in their own language. I don't know whether it's called reciting or spoken poetry, but in my language we call it oh my word, why would I forget my language?
Mbogi.
Yes, Imbongi. Thank you, Charlie. Hey, my father would kill me. And then the marketing plan, there are newspapers that we have identified that we would be using. It's called Isolezwe or Daily Voice. I'm not sure whether there were others that were added in the meeting yesterday because I was not there. The Weekend August, Saturday Star, Sunday Tribune, Cape Times, Daily Dispatch, Daily Sun, and then the local newspaper that I will collect from everybody within. So if there were others that were added, therefore I'll take note of those. I have emailed, I got a number from somebody who works from SABC. So I have emailed, and the reply was, how long is the ad and all that. So those are the nitty-gritties that I need to discuss with Anna Marie for the radio ads and for the TV ad. There were some, they said it depends when, because I think during the day it's cheaper than in the evening. And then we identified the major radio stations that we will be using. One of them is SAFM, Metro FM, 5FM, Good Hope, and any other one that maybe the meeting could add. And then we discussed also maybe the president-elect with the president can feature on the Morning Live program, because at some point it's something that we have done. I don't know whom to contact here. I'm going to speak to Nora. Maybe she would have somebody so that we can see how do we get through to SABC2. And maybe if there's somebody from the meeting who can help, that would be nice. We also talked about developing social media ads, the formal ones, the TikTok and the first Facebook one. I was supposed to go back to Anna Marie so that we can speak to Eugene, but I haven't got any time. So Anna Marie, I'm on leave tomorrow and Monday, so I'll find time to do that. because we thought if we can have professional ones, it could be used throughout. And then we talked about the posters and the bookmarks, which they're both gonna be downloaded. People are gonna print on their own. But these are the things that we discussed that I didn't get the chance to present them at the meeting yesterday for them to be agreed to. And then we also talked about the T-shirt for all the paid up members. So we would consider people who are paid up until the end of January. They will have the 25th logo and everything. And then the poster would be attached to, so we're waiting for the poster to know what kind of a T-shirt that we would have. But the poster, the first draft, will come to the meeting end of this month. And we will start advertising towards the end of January to certain places. And that was it that we discussed. And maybe if I can get some feedback, Anne-Marie, of what was the development yesterday?
Before we go there, Anne-Marie, can I just two questions, or
Sure.
have two questions? I don't know, maybe you'll address it when you speak. So the one thing is, I saw the email from DSAC about the proposal by the end of November. Are we on track to do that? That's my one question. My second question is, I hear Linda saying we will look at members at the end of January. Is the idea then that these T-shirts are going to be available to people during Library Week? Is that what we're talking about? If we're talking about the 25-year logo thing? Because if we're saying the end of Jan, we potentially cutting out people who, for example, take up the option to do that 3-month thing. So by the end of Jan, they wouldn't have finished their 3 months if they choose to pay that way. And is it not that at the end of March is normally when people get dropped off the membership list? And how does that impact what we're saying here?
If I may, so yes, usually they have a grace period until end of March. However, if we want it available for Library Week, we have to start ordering early in January already. And I think that is part of the problem why we have excess at the office, because we now have to guess how many members we might have at the end or by the time Library Week rolls on. So there definitely needs to be a cutoff date. But yeah, I mean, it's open for the discussion. That's just how it was done in the past. I'm not stuck on doing things as it was done. So if we can come up with a new plan that might work better, then I'm all for it. Oh, and the other question, the DSAT proposal. So yes, I just need a few quotes or estimates from Linda. As she said, she already got in contact with somebody at SABC. No, SABC. Okay, wrong institution. Yeah, just that we have an idea of how much to put in the proposal. So just a few numbers that we need to work out. But we are on track.
Okay. So as a follow-up to my question around the T-shirts and stuff. So in terms of logistics, what are we talking about? Because are we then only doing the T-shirts? So does that mean we also going to do the traditional thing of printing the posters, or is that off the table?
No, Nazim, we're not printing the posters because the posters are quite expensive to post.
Okay.
So we're not printing the
No, sure.
posters. The posters would be
So my
available
question then is,
then.
no, that's I don't have an issue with that. My question then is the issue around logistics with the t-shirts, because you're sitting with the same issue here that we have every year when we've actually done t-shirts. Exactly, that's my point. T-shirts are also expensive to post.
Yeah.
So my question is, how is this different? And thus my question is the intention to have the t-shirts available for Library Week? If we're launching this thing virtually, is it to have it by people in time for that launch? When the week starts, is that the timeline we're working towards?
Yes, and also for the week, Nazim, for the librarians who would be hosting several Library Week programs.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
One of the things that we also spoke about was seeing that it's the 25th year of Leaza. Instead of the normal t-shirt, make it a golf shirt. I know that's more expensive. But what we also can do is there is, as far as I could remember, a rep council meeting somewhere in February, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember if that was face-to-face.
Yeah.
If
the
it's
intention
face-to-face, then we can give it to, we can give the t-shirts or whatever we decide on to the rep council members to deliver to their respective branches.
So they'll have to come with an extra suitcase. Just
Yeah.
a question.
Well,
yeah.
Or a bigger.
I know we did this once before, where not the t-shirts, but we did the posters that way. And that, yeah, let's just say it didn't turn out quite the way we intended it to. Because I think people, if you're traveling in and traveling out again, I think there's that whole issue as well. But Anna-Marie, you were going to say?
Yes, unfortunately, it's not as simplistic as the chair or the chair-elect taking the promotional items. If we take Eastern Cape, for example, so currently the chair-elect or the chair, who's the chair-elect? The chair anyway is in Grahamstown, but she is at least 2 hours away from PE. She's at least 2 or 3 hours away from Umtata. So how are they supposed to get the items there? You know, do we expect them now to use their own petrol, to drive up, to dish it out? So yeah, it is not as simple as the chair or the chair-elect takes it. Gauteng North works beautifully because Gauteng North basically is Pretoria or Tshwane. But the other provinces is not as simplistic as that.
I'm not, don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to dampen everybody's idea. I just want us to think about the logistics around it, because this is the same logistics that we sat with in life before COVID, and it was difficult. Now we have COVID to contend with as well. So it adds another layer of complexity to getting the item out to people. And I do think that we need to take that into account. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying it is things that we've got to think about and think about really carefully. One of the other things that I think we do need to think about, and Anna-Marie, you can come in here as well, in the COVID years, let me rather put it that way, we have been a bit more, what's the word? we've been a bit more strategic around how we make use of the funding that comes from DSAC. So in what we did, for example, in the last year was we shifted the funds to another project, but found a way to link it to Library Week. So while the funding is there for that purpose, the idea was we put a proposal in front of DAC to say, it's not going to happen at that time, but the intention is to do it at that point in time. So again, I want us to think about if we are to do the shirts, is there a way, for example, yes, I know we want it for Library Week, but logistics wise, if we think it is not going to work, if we are moving into a fourth wave and whatever the consequences of that are, is there a way to link it to getting it to people for the 25th year celebration? Because you're talking about putting that 25-year thing on the shirt. And is there a way to link it then between the two, and you can put it to DAC to say, this is what we're intending to do. It starts here, but this is a natural linkage, but the funding will only be spent there. And they've been fairly accommodating to what we've asked them to do. Not for us to necessarily discuss here. I just want you to think about it. And when you have the next meeting, I think just think about those things as well. So, okay.
Yeah, Nazim, I was also thinking in line of rather get the T-shirt with the Library Week or the year's theme out for Librarians Day, which is the 25th anniversary. Yeah, so we would still need, if we're going to do golf shirts, okay, so then we will need to have more T-shirts anyway, because by that time there will be more people, but we'll have a better lead time to order. But it still will cost us at least 100,000 for courier costs, if not more, and at least $250,000 to produce T-shirts. So we just need to keep that in mind as well. Do we want to spend at least 350,000 for a T-shirt for the members?
As I said, not necessary for us to debate here. It's just things I want you to think about. So when you have the next meeting, talk about these issues. Okay, is there anything else around Library Week that we need to note for EXCO purposes right now? Or can we move? I'm just conscious of time. Okay. Charlie, anything from your side?
No, everything has been covered.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, the next two items, there's not much I can tell you about it. I put it on the agenda. I know that I asked at the last EXCO meeting that we think about possible themes for conference 2022. I don't know if anybody's come up with a brilliant suggestion. I will openly admit and say I haven't given it much thought. So unless somebody has one that they want to pitch in here, can I ask us to move this conversation to email and have the discussion there and throw around, brainstorm ideas around there. I'll set the ball rolling and I'll send an email to everybody in this regard, and then we can start having a discussion around that. Would that be okay with everybody? As I said, unless somebody has a brilliant idea right now.
Agree.
Okay. In terms of SCEXL 2022, as I reported earlier on, we did not have the council meeting, and it has been postponed. We haven't been told when it will be postponed to. The Secretariat of SCEXL has asked for a meeting with me to talk specifically around SCEXL Conference 2022, but we haven't had it yet. We have had some conversation with Charlene around SCEXL and the possibility of having it as a hybrid. But I think for now, we're going to leave it as a virtual because I think it's easier to to move it to a hybrid, but we planned it as a virtual. It's just that she wants some commitments from us in terms of a venue, which I don't think we can give right now. Once I have the meeting with the Secretariat, once we've come to some firm discussion around it, then I will feed back to everybody and then we will take it from there. In terms of publications, in terms of the Liaison in Touch, just to note that I did receive the final copy in the week somewhere, last week somewhere. I think it was on Friday, so that's in production and will be going out to members very soon. In terms of Sageless, Anna-Marie and myself and Wynand from the kind of Sageless editorial team, we did have a meeting with the new editor-in-chief. Some decisions have been made around how we will take this forward. So we are working towards bringing out the second edition for 2022. That will then fulfill our obligations to Cielo. And then Prof. Nwebe is then working on where do we go from here, working away the backlog. He will start putting his editorial team in place and start working on some of the aspects around Sageless that's been lying dormant for a while, such as the reviewing of the reviewers, the composition of the editorial board, as well as a couple of other aspects around the journal. I just want to say thank you to Anna-Marie for dealing with some of the administrative issues around acknowledgement of submissions, etc. I think it does help to some degree. But like Prof. Nwebe said this morning in his email, there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done still. So hopefully we'll have this back on track with his guidance. He's very enthusiastic about it, and I think we will we'll have a good term of Sageless rolling out. I do also want to note, maybe for one purposes, that Stellenbosch has notified us that they have updated the software for OJS, something that's been a bugbear, I think, for Wynand for quite a long time. So they have moved from version 2 to version 3. We're not exactly sure which version, 3 point what, but they have at least updated the software to a better version. I think at UNISA they work with a much more advanced version of the OJS software, but at least we have an editor-in-chief who is familiar with the software and we don't have to teach anything necessarily about it. Okay, finances. Dani, anything you want to bring to our attention around the budget? I know we said we would do one at every meeting, but I don't know if there's been enough movement for us to actually have a meaningful discussion. But I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, on the budget, there's not much to report, except we did the talk with Nikki, the accountant, and she suggested that we, and Anna-Marie can please come in here, that we draw up an operational budget. That means that we take out things like the VAT that we are supposed to or sometimes get. We take out the conferences. So we only put in the things that we use from day to day. Things like the telecom, the data lines, maybe couriers that we use, things like that. And I did send the current draft budget that Steve sent me. And we are working on that to take that out. So hopefully when it's finished, we'll try and send it to EXCO members so that they can have a look at that and then say yes or no. With the signatories, I didn't yet have time to get to Anna Marie so that we can go and change the signatories. The branch and interest groups, Anna Marie did correspond with you on that. Short for the other members, Nikki suggested that we open an investment account for the branches or interest groups that currently has investments, so that they can get their own interest and things on the investment accounts. So that is in short. Anna Marie, we must just check. As far as I know, I've heard that IGBIS is already with FNB. If that's the case, maybe we can just ask to link that to the main account. Okay. If it's that simple.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Dani. So just to latch on to what was mentioned right at the beginning in the matters arising, Linda, kind of just to catch you up, Charlie, I wasn't sure if you heard at that point. So we had agreed that we were going to write to, or I was going to write to the branches and interest groups, the ones outstanding, ask them to move the accounts to the central account. We initially said by the 15th of November, but I didn't get around to that. And in the meantime, we needed to sort out this issue around those that have investment accounts. Now that we have a way forward, I will now write to those branches and interest groups where it hasn't happened yet. And my intention is to give them a deadline now of 31 December for this to happen. And hopefully we will have most of the things sorted out by then. I think the fact that we can now show them that they will not lose in terms of the investment accounts might be impetus for them to actually do what is necessary. There's a couple of things, well, at least I know from our last meeting, I know about the issues around PACLEAG, but I'm sure that once I actually write to all of them, there's a lot of other things that's going to creep out of the woodwork that we might have to deal with. But I think let's put the marker in the road and tell them this is what we are expecting from them, and we will deal with it once that date passes, and we will then check on where they are in terms of this requirement from our side. Okay, we've got about 9 minutes left, so I just want to go back to two things, Linda, because you weren't in the meeting earlier. I just wanted to know about so in the matters arising from the last meeting, we've spoken about the social media survey, as well as writing up or an updating of the social media policy. Have you managed to get to grips with that? Or if not, can we look at setting a due date for that? Because there was a due date for both of those, but I'm assuming then you haven't managed to get to grips with that. So if you can maybe just speak to those two things for me, please.
I haven't looked at them, Nazim, to be honest. In our next EXCO meeting, I will ready. Unless you want to give me another due date, and then I can send it through an email before the EXCO meeting.
Okay. I think we will probably discuss it at the next EXCO meeting, Linda. But can we, if I look at the data I gave Anna Marie for the other thing that she still needs to get to, I'm going to set the same due date for you and then say if you can have it at least on email to us by the 21st of December.
Okay, so that is the revision of social media
policy. And then also looking at the whole social media, because that's something I haven't communicated to the branches and interest groups either, because I think we needed to do some work in the background before we start changing things. But you and I can have a discussion about it. But if we can look at those two things by 21 December, I would appreciate it.
Okay, I think I'm lagging behind because I do get the part of the social media policy. The second part is?
I need to go back to the minutes to actually look at it.
It's the survey, social media survey.
Yeah.
So are we still gonna do the survey? Although I think we agreed last time that we will just ask the branches and interest groups to close their accounts.
That is actually true.
So do I still need to do the survey therefore?
Part of the that Nazim is going to write to them to indicate that they should, I wouldn't say close per se, but they should use the central the page for Liasa. But
I think, yeah, thanks, Rebecca. I think maybe just a rethink on that, Linda. So I think you're going to write an updated social media policy. I think once we have that and once we've discussed it at EXCO, then I will write to all of the branches to say this is now what we have decided upon. And this is the way forward. Because I think, again, like with many things, it's no use we tell them to do something if we don't have something alternative to offer them. So I think let's work on the policy itself. And then once we have that in place, then I will communicate to the branches and the interest groups about what our intentions are.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Next meeting. So Linda, you weren't here, so we're not having a meeting in December. Our next meeting is only in January. Tell me what's the date, Rebecca?
Anne-Marie, 21st?
I think it's 27 January. Yeah. Okay, so our next meeting is 27 January. We have agreed that any issues that we're needing to discuss, we will discuss via email. And if needs be, maybe we need it, we'll send a WhatsApp just to alert everybody if there's a particularly burning issue that we need to talk about. So before I close, is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up that we haven't talked about, that I've forgotten about?
Nazim?
Yes, Rebecca.
I wanted to bring it under Library Week, but I think it's not important right now. I will be sending out the minutes which are ready, so you can pick it up from there. There's some one item that they needed your input, so we will take it from there after the minutes.
Okay, all right. No, that's fine. Okay, if there is nothing else, then I just want to say thank you very much for giving up your time to be here this afternoon, and for your inputs and your robust discussions. I do appreciate it, and if I probably will speak to all of you via email at least, if not over the phone. but if I don't, and until our next meeting, please be safe out there. Especially those of you who live in Gauteng. The numbers are rising alarmingly. And if I forget to say it somewhere, I hope you're going to have a good holiday, that you are going to have a break. We all know Charlie's going to be on leave for, what's it, 2 months, almost 2 months, feels like. We envy you. But whatever you're going to do on your holidays, please be safe, and enjoy your time with your families and friends, etc.
Anniversary.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a good, pleasant evening, and I will speak to you again either via email or at the next EXCO meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Nazim.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.